Imagine boarding a plane in 1955, ready for a routine flight. You take off, everything seems normal, and then suddenly you land. But when the cabin door opens, you're told it's not 1955 anymore, it's 1992. 37 years have passed in what felt like hours. Your family has aged, the world has changed, but you and everyone on board haven't aged a single day. This is the story of Pan Am Flight 914, one of the most viral aviation mysteries on the internet. Millions have watched videos about it, countless articles have been written. But here's the thing, this story has a major problem. It never happened. Today, we're going to break down exactly why this story is impossible, where it actually came from, and what real aviation mysteries deserve your attention instead. Act 1. The Legend. Let's start with the story as it's usually told, because to debunk something, you need to understand what people actually believe. According to the legend, on September 9, 1954, Pan American World Airways Flight 914 departed from New York City, heading to Miami, Florida. It was a routine domestic flight carrying 57 passengers and 4 crew members. The aircraft was a Douglas DC-4, a reliable workhorse of the era. But Flight 914 never arrived in Miami. Air traffic control lost contact. Search and rescue teams found nothing. No wreckage, no debris, no distress signals. The plane and everyone aboard simply vanished without a trace. After extensive searches, the flight was presumed lost and the passengers were declared dead. Then, 37 years later, in March 1992, something impossible happened. Air traffic controllers in Caracas, Venezuela, reportedly detected an unidentified aircraft on their radar. The plane wasn't responding to radio calls and wasn't on any flight schedule. When they finally made contact, the pilot identified himself as part of Pan Am Flight 914, requesting permission to land in Miami. The controllers were confused. Pan Am Flight 914? That flight disappeared decades ago. When the plane landed in Caracas, officials approached it with caution. The aircraft was a DC-4, matching the description of the missing plane. When they opened the door, they found the crew and passengers confused and disoriented. According to the story, everyone on board believed they had only been in the air for a few hours. Their calendars read 1954. They had no idea that 37 years had passed. Even more bizarre, the passengers allegedly hadn't aged a single day. Their belongings, newspapers, and everything else on board was from 1954. Officials were reportedly baffled. After brief questioning, the pilot allegedly panicked, took off again without clearance, and the plane vanished once more, never to be seen again. It's a compelling story. It has everything: mystery, time travel, unexplained disappearances. But before we get lost in the intrigue, let's examine the facts. Act 2. The Red Flags. When you start investigating this story, red flags appear immediately. And I mean immediately. Red flag number 1. No flight records. Pan American World Airways was one of the most prestigious airlines in the world. They kept meticulous records of every flight, every passenger, every crew member. If Flight 914 existed and disappeared in 1954, there would be comprehensive documentation: passenger manifests, crew assignments, maintenance logs, and flight plans. None of this exists. There is no record whatsoever of a Pan Am Flight 914 disappearing in 1954, or any year for that matter. Red flag number 2. No passenger names. Every version of this story is suspiciously vague. You'll notice that no specific names of passengers or crew are ever mentioned. In real aviation disasters, we know the names, we know their stories, families come forward, memorials are built. But for Flight 914, nothing, not a single name, Not one family member searching for answers. Not one photograph of a supposed passenger. Red flag number 3. No news coverage. In 1954, if a commercial airliner with 61 people aboard vanished, it would have been massive news. We're talking front-page headlines in every major newspaper, radio coverage, newsreel footage in movie theaters. I've searched newspaper archives from 1954, the New York Times, Miami Herald, every major publication. There's no mention of any Pan Am flight disappearing that year. And in 1992, if a plane from 1954 suddenly reappeared with passengers who hadn't aged, that would be the biggest story in human history. It would eclipse everything. Scientists, governments, media from around the world would descend on Venezuela. Again, nothing. No contemporaneous news reports exist. Aviation technology. Let's talk about how air traffic control actually works. In 1992, the global aviation tracking system was already sophisticated. Radar coverage, transponders, flight data recorders, and international coordination meant that every commercial flight was monitored from takeoff to landing. A DC-4 suddenly appearing out of nowhere would trigger immediate military responses. Fighter jets would be scrambled. It would be treated as a potential security threat. The idea that it could just land, talk to controllers, and take off again without massive documentation is absurd. And Pan Am itself. Here's an inconvenient detail the story overlooks. Pan American World Airways went bankrupt and ceased operations in 1991, 1 year before this alleged incident in 1992. If Flight 914 had returned, it wouldn't have been returning to an active airline. Pan Am was gone. These aren't small inconsistencies. These are fundamental problems that make the entire story collapse under the slightest scrutiny. Act 3. The real origin. So if this never happened, where did the story come from? The answer takes us into the world of tabloid journalism and early internet mythology. The story appears to have originated from tabloid publications in the 1980s and 1990s, the kind that also ran stories about Bigfoot, alien abductions, and Elvis sightings. These publications weren't concerned with facts. They were entertainment dressed up as news. The specific details of Flight 914 matched the formula of these tabloid tales perfectly. Exotic location, no verifiable sources, dramatic human interest, and just enough pseudo-technical detail to sound plausible to casual readers. As the internet grew in the late 1990s and 2000s, the story found new life. It was copied from website to website, often with embellishments added along the way. Some versions claim there were photographs, others say the CIA covered it up. Each retelling added new dramatic details, moving further from any connection to reality. By the 2010s, YouTube videos about Flight 914 were getting millions of views. The story had become a modern legend, and many people believed it was real because they'd seen it repeated so many times across different platforms. This is how misinformation spreads in the digital age. A fake story from a tabloid becomes a blog post, which becomes a YouTube video, which gets shared on social media, and suddenly millions of people believe something that never happened. The psychology behind why people believe it is understandable. We love mysteries. We want to believe in the impossible. A story about time travel is far more exciting than the mundane reality that someone made it up to sell magazines. Act 4. Why it's scientifically impossible. Let's set aside the lack of evidence for a moment and talk about why this story violates everything we know about physics and aviation. Time travel doesn't work that way. According to our current understanding of physics, particularly Einstein's theory of relativity, time dilation is real. If you travel at speeds approaching the speed of light, time would pass more slowly for you relative to someone stationary. But here's the problem. A DC-4 aircraft cruises at about 280 kilometers per hour. That's roughly 0.000026% the speed of light. At that speed, the time dilation effect would be so infinitesimally small that even after 37 years of continuous flight, the difference would be measured in microseconds, not years. To experience 37 years of time dilation, you'd need to be traveling at a significant fraction of light speed, which would require technology far beyond anything we have today, let alone in 1954. The fuel problem. A DC-4 has a maximum range of about 4,000 kilometers on a full tank. The flight from New York to Miami is roughly 1,750 kilometers. Even if Flight 914 somehow entered a time warp, it would have run out of fuel within hours. The plane couldn't have stayed airborne for 37 years. It couldn't have stayed airborne for 37 hours. No known mechanism exists that could cause an aircraft and its occupants to jump forward in time. No atmospheric condition, no electromagnetic anomaly, no quantum effect that would produce this result. The story requires us to accept magic, not physics. Act 5. Real Aviation Mysteries. Now, just because Flight 914 is fiction doesn't mean aviation doesn't have genuine mysteries worth exploring. Malaysia Airlines Flight 370 disappeared in March 2014 with 239 people aboard. Earhart's disappearance in 1937 remains unsolved. Was it a crash landing? Did she survive on an island? The debate continues with new theories emerging regularly. The Bermuda Triangle has been associated with numerous disappearances, though most have rational explanations. Still, incidents like the disappearance of Flight 19 in 1945 raise interesting questions about navigation and weather conditions. Helios Airways Flight 522 is a haunting case where the plane continued flying on autopilot for hours after everyone aboard had lost consciousness due to cabin depressurization. It's a ghost plane story that actually happened. These real cases are fascinating precisely because they're real. They involve actual people, actual investigations, and actual unanswered questions. They don't need embellishment to be compelling. So what's the verdict on Pan Am Flight 914? It's a hoax, a well-crafted piece of fiction that exploited our love of mystery and our fascination with the impossible. There's no evidence it happened because it didn't happen. The lesson here isn't just about one fake story. It's about critical thinking in the age of information overload. When you encounter extraordinary claims, ask for extraordinary evidence. Look for primary sources. Check whether major news organizations covered it. Search for the names of people involved. Real aviation history is full of incredible stories, heroic pilots, miraculous survivals, and yes, genuine mysteries that remain unsolved. We don't need to invent fake ones. If you enjoyed this deep dive into aviation myths and mysteries, subscribe for more content where we separate fact from fiction in the world of aviation. And remember, the next time you see a story that seems too incredible to be true, it probably is. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.